We are Rogue Media Sports.
It is the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. It's Tuesday, everybody. Here for another hour of sports madness and chaos. I got to be open with you guys. I did not realize this until almost too late that it is tonight, not next Tuesday, that the American Sports Story Aaron Hernandez miniseries debuts. So that's tonight on FX. You can't get it on Hulu until after midnight, which is just fantastic for my work schedule. We've got Mike on the Wheels of Steel. Yeah. I think that's a pretty dumb thing that Pete says. Pete says that all the time. You just
sorry, I forgot.
Well, the irony that Mike doesn't talk into the mic.
Yeah, I think it's an old DJ thing, right?
Yeah.
Steals a wheel? Wheels of Steel?
Close. There you go.
Same thing?
I'm going to start doing Steals a Wheel.
There you go. See?
Are you going to watch this Aaron Hernandez miniseries tonight? No.
No, I don't care.
Did you watch the OJ one, the American Sports Story?
Not, no.
I guess it was American Crime Story back then.
It was.
That's
it was
right.
American Crime Story. I lived through it. I know what happened.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I feel that way about some things.
Yeah.
And about this thing too, if we're being honest. I
almost felt like there wasn't enough time between the actual event and the thing.
This Hernandez one, yeah.
This Reagan documentary, ooh, perfect timing.
Have you seen this Reagan thing?
No,
this Dennis Quaid Reagan
I've only
thing?
heard you guys talk about it, and it sounds wonderful.
Dude, somehow it came up yesterday. The movie Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah,
that
Jerry
is one of my
all-time favorite movies, by the way.
Is that really?
I'm not saying it's a great movie.
It's because it's not.
But I just
it's not.
I love him looking at Winona Ryder and going, "See this hand? It makes $5,000 a night. See this one? It does too." That's one of my favorite quotes. I pull that out all the time. It's a great one.
And you can totally tell that Dennis Quaid is singing in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's really
he's
Joaquin Phoenixing that.
He's got some golden pipes. That man.
Because I've had this thought yesterday. I was like, somehow that's not going to be the worst biopic that that Dennis Quaid stars in. Reagan has to be worse.
Oh, see, I didn't even draw the conclusion. Okay, yeah, you're right. So he is Reagan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right then. Yeah, this may be the worst one.
Dennis Quaid and Winona Ryder, man. What a film. What an absolute film.
Dennis Quaid was a dad and like his kid was dead or something, and he used a ham radio to talk to his ghost.
No.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it's like,
is this real?
Yeah, it's like interference or something like that. He's running a ham radio.
How old is it? Like, did he have a career at that point?
Yeah. I mean, he was still
post Great Balls of Fire.
It was definitely post Great Balls of Fire. Yeah.
Interesting.
Great Balls had been fired.
Well, I saw that. So I thought the OJ one was good.
Yeah.
Everyone thought it was like the greatest thing ever made.
What's
that
his
was good.
Do it? The guy who did Nip Tuck and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. And he did the second one, which was the murder of Gianni Versace, and like went into that whole Andrew Cunanan was his name.
See,
that was excellent.
I would watch those
because people didn't know that story too.
That's why, especially Versace, because I didn't know that story.
Correct. Yeah,
but
it was a weird thing. It was like a murder spree, and
I'm just not crazy about the directing style. He ends up with, like American Horror Story. You've got 14 different storylines.
Yeah,
it's just I
never
too
watched
much. He tries to dump too much stuff into a thing. Even Nip Tuck, it was great first couple of seasons. After that, we get little people. We move to Florida. We do this.
I like that FX was like American Horror Story, which was successful, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they're like, what if we took this thing and made it nonfiction? FX sneaky, like not doing poorly right now. FX is creatively doing pretty well.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was asking my wife, like, where are all the AMC dramas we used to have?
I think that's what's happened.
Maybe
I think FX. Well, it's obviously not apples for apples, but
yeah. There's some great stuff on Apple, by the way.
But you're right. Like we don't have that anymore, and there's nothing that I see on a streaming service that is like, this should be like an AMC weekly thing. You know what I mean? I don't really see that either. Except for this thing Pete's making me watch.
What's he making you watch?
The Perfect Couple we talked about, the Lee
Oh,
Schreiber.
yeah.
Like that could be AMC. It's not as good as AMC's best stuff,
Yeah.
but that could be AMC.
AMC had a run, man. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched it, but oh shoot, what was that?
Mad Men?
No, the Western.
Yes,
they
I
had.
have.
The Western they had. It was Hell something Hell. Anyway, it was fantastic. Common was in it, which doesn't necessarily equal good show, but he was fantastic in it. At the end of it, kind of goes nuts. So it's
really
yeah, it was
so he becomes,
Hell on Wheels.
dare I
That's
say,
what it was.
uncommon.
He does come uncommon. Yeah, he becomes a bear or something. I don't know. It's weird. It's a great Western, though.
Pretty big.
It reminded me of what's the gritty one on HBO? The
Deadwood?
It's like Deadwood,
Which I started watching a few weeks ago and couldn't make it through the
it's
first
like
episode.
Deadwood, but on the move because it's always following the train tracks as they're being built.
That's an interesting
It was
concept.
very good. Very good show, but then you got Breaking Bad, you've got Walking Dead, you've got
oh man,
you just start
Walking Dead
listing
went a
some of
long time. Jesus.
Walking Dead went a long time. Walking Dead was great for 5 seasons, and then they
Even
killed
that
it.
I think is a push.
They
That's
killed
a
it when they
stretch.
knocked Glenn's brains out.
And then they were like, "He's back."
Who, Glenn?
No, but remember when they did that the first time?
He's back in this jar.
No. When they said after it was like a
Yeah.
cliffhanger that he had died,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
then later they.
Yeah.
Anyway, this Aaron Hernandez thing.
This was great. The way it started.
I am. I mean, there's not much more to say about the Aaron Hernandez one. Like we know the story. When I'm hoping that we don't. Like, I don't need a sympathetic angle of Aaron Hernandez. Apparently, they're going to explore his sexuality, which, okay, that's like something we haven't had a lot of. We heard, his friend from Connecticut in that last series claimed to be his gay lover in high school. And I am intrigued by what that has to do with, him kind of snapping. Like, clearly, there was a lot of mental illness there. Anyway, if you're killing people and how did being closeted fit into that? I think that's intriguing, but what I don't need is like Aaron Hernandez, the tortured poet. I don't need that. And I remember like after he killed himself in prison, I had said something like,
did he kill himself in prison?
That I don't need as well. That could happen in this, Mike. This could be a conspiracy theory thing.
Could be a thing, yeah.
Like NFL concussion people are trying to silence Aaron Hernandez. That could come up. I
No way
wouldn't be
we're
surprised by
investing in
that.
those helmets.
But like after he died, I was like, I don't know, good. He was a murderer. You know what I mean? And people would be like, this man has a family. And I'd be like, yes, they're better off without him.
So did everyone else.
Like he killed people. Like he killed people. And we only have, I think, one that he went to prison for. But there was absolutely some ties to the other ones. And like, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Hernandez killed like 10 people.
No.
From
I don't
all
think
that we've heard, like when there's smoke, there's fire. And like he was caught up with the wrong people and was very impulsive.
I had not heard the gay lover thing.
Yeah, well, that's a theory of why he killed the Odin Lloyd.
No, I didn't know.
Was that he had found out, and then the theory was like it was about to come out that he was gay and that he had a gay lover, and so he killed himself.
I only watch the OWN network, so I don't see a lot of it.
They did something. They did the other. I think they did the other documentary. Yeah, they did the other one. Yeah. I think that's right. I think it was Oprah's network. But so when the Patriots did this Dynasty documentary a few months ago, there was a Hernandez episode, and it was like they basically tried to make it out to be like Belichick as the bad guy, as if like Bill Belichick got him to kill people because apparently Hernandez was asking for a trade to the West Coast so that he could get away from this all. He's from Connecticut originally.
Oh, okay.
Then went to Florida and obviously played for the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was like the way to get away from it. And they had just signed him to like a 5-year deal, like big money deal. And they tried to make out Belichick to be like the bad guy for not just trading him to Seattle for like nothing. And it was like, that's not how this works, first off. And second off, to the point you just made right there, second off, it's not like he just goes to Seattle and doesn't have a murderous rage. Like, I don't think that happens. He was just a wannabe gangster. Mm-hmm. I was going to say wannabe gangbanger, but
He's not a gangbanger.
I don't know if that's a wannabe situation. Like he wanted to be that so bad. And
how do you feel about it? Like, because you're such a huge Patriots fan.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about it?
About Hernandez or
as
like
a
the
fan,
Patriots angle of it?
The Patriots and Patriots v. Aaron Hernandez. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, like I don't honestly. Maybe this is the homer in me. I don't think the Patriots should absolve like any blame of this. You know,
agree.
like I don't think there's any blame laid at their feet. The same way we don't, think of the Panthers as the franchise that hired Ray Caruth.
Well, for
you
me,
know what I mean?
I grew up an Oilers fan, then became a Titans fan. So Steve McNair, same kind of thing. We got nothing to do with you going to Baltimore and getting shot in the head. You know?
Yes, it's true. You don't.
So,
and like they knew there was some character issues with Hernandez that he wanted to be a gangster, but like this is the NFL. Like what team can't say they don't have a guy with character issues? He was immature. He came into the league when he was 20. They knew he had kind of a rough upbringing, but like that is so much of the NFL. And like so many guys overcome that in the NFL. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who was making big money and a big part of a offense run by Tom Brady. Like he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like most of the time these guys overcome that and they get insulated by the life of being a professional athlete and you don't fall into the wrong crowd. Aaron Hernandez just desperately wanted to fall into the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
So like there's nothing. And again, like all 32 locker rooms have a guy with character issues similar to Aaron Hernandez at the time. You know what I mean? Right now.
Did the Hall of Fame pull OJ? Or is he still in there?
I think they did. They did. USC
I never saw
still has his number retired.
Gun, but
no, I don't think we saw that.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know that for sure. I'm almost certain they did.
Yeah, I would think they would. I would think you'd almost have to, because otherwise you end up answering just that question all the time.
You just get people taking a picture next to the OJ bust.
With morbid curiosity.
Yes. They did write a press release when he died.
Did they?
Yeah.
When OJ died?
Yeah, the Pro Football Hall of Fame
they
did.
Said, thank God.
That's what they should have said, man. Like, honestly, who's going to say no? Like, who's going to push back on that?
Dear world.
I think it was the Heisman Trophy that was like, our 1968 winner, OJ Simpson has passed. Prayers for his family. It was weird. Like,
I miss him already.
Zach might be able to give us a nod here. Do you know if OJ Simpson was no, it says he wasn't. It was not removed.
He was not removed.
This story from April says the reason why OJ Simpson wasn't removed from the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I thought they took him out. Yeah.
Oof.
Huh.
I didn't. I probably should have known that. Yep. April 2024 is the day after he died. OJ Simpson's bust will likely remain in the Hall of Fame.
His bus?
Yeah. The school bus he rode.
School bus he lived in there at the
end. Oh man. So I feel like I've seen all of this before. This is the problem with being an absolute sports nerd. Is like I'll go into this documentary, this miniseries, and I'll be like, I knew all of this. And all the people on Twitter will be saying it's great because they didn't pay attention to it, even though it was, it was one of the biggest stories in the country 10 years ago. But I will have already known this, and therefore I will find problems with it all over the place. And I will say the gameplay looks terrible, and those don't look like Florida's jerseys. And boy, this is not Gillette Stadium, and a bunch of that. They've got Patrick Schwarzenegger as Tim Tebow. If you're interested in that,
Patrick Schwarzenegger,
and you're not gonna believe this.
What?
Patrick Schwarzenegger, I found out today, is related to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Is he?
Yeah.
Huh. I thought it was just happy.
Would you believe that? Yeah. I mean, like you see those names all the time.
He was in some. Is he in The Boys? Is it Schwarzenegger that's in The Boys, or is it? Yeah, he's in it very little. He's in it a little bitty bit, but
that's more than I watch. It's more than I watch.
What, The Boys?
Yeah,
it was a good show.
Yeah, they just like walk through people. I don't get it.
In Gen B. Never mind.
They just like run through people and they explode.
Pretty
and
much,
I'm just like, this is.
That's the whole show. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of the show, man. It's a lot of the show that I've seen.
Yeah.
And they're bad
Bringing
people.
Bringing it back to Aaron Hernandez.
Yes.
It's kind of like what he did.
He's a bad person. He ran through people, and
he was a bad guy.
And
I mean, ultimately, would you say he's a bad guy?
dude, like, when he came into the league, outside of Brady, he was my favorite Patriots player.
Really?
I had an
See,
Aaron
that's what I was
Hernandez
asking,
jersey, man.
Yeah. Like,
Oh,
how
yeah.
did it really influence you?
Yeah, like I didn't have a poster or anything, but I did have a jersey, and I was in high school. And it gets lost, the football portion of Aaron Hernandez, and I will stick to this, man. That dude was going to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
He was revolutionizing the position. In fact, I was on sports radio yesterday, and I almost compared a Baylor tight end to Aaron Hernandez, and I was like, I might not want to bring that up.
Yeah.
But the way he plays, he was a guy who was lined up, a tight end who was lined up in the slot all the time, and they would give him handoffs in the backfield. Like, he was such a freak athlete and was a really good run blocker as well. They hit on the same draft. They drafted 2 Hall of Fame tight ends who never had to come off the field, Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. Those guys were excellent run blockers and even better pass catchers, incredible athletes, matchup nightmare. And so they were both going to be, obviously Gronk is a Hall of Famer, and Hernandez would have been as well. That's why the 3 years that they were on the same offense together, that was unstoppable for the Patriots. If they were a little better defensively, they would have won a Super Bowl. Yeah. But they were that good.
I think you talked about it. We've got a little less than a minute here, but I think you talked about it before Tom Brady announcing the Cowboys game the other night.
Yeah, he's better.
He did a lot better.
He's better.
Yeah.
He's still, but now he's like getting
his
like
voice
too into it a little bit. Though.
Yeah.
Like, whoa! Like during a play, I'm like, Tom, shut up. Shut up.
He's never said whoa in his life.
I think Brady will be good. Not great.
Sure.
He won't ever be the best at this, but I think he'll be pretty good. Anyway, I've got more pressing Boston news.
Good.
Other former Boston athletes that aren't Aaron Hernandez, and why Phil the Thrill needs to come back to the Boston Bruins. That's coming up on the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network, and it's coming up next. It is the Cam Show. It's powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Zach back on the wheels, the tires of iron, if you will.
It's just going to be a wheel and some sort of metal, I guess, right?
Something.
Right.
Yeah. Like an old school thing, Pete.
Oh, for sure.
I felt like we're starting the last segment. Before I get into this next one, you have any interest in this Aaron Hernandez?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
I feel you know the story.
Yeah, I do for the like I remember following it obviously when it came out because I was just like, okay, like how did this get to where it was?
That was a
Um,
wild week in Boston sports history, by the way.
I will say though that a lot of stuff has happened then since, so I'm sure there's bits and pieces of it I've forgotten that I'll watch and be like, oh yeah, I do remember that now. But kind of like with you, I feel like it's more so for the people who might not have followed it all when
It's
it
for the true
happened.
crime people.
Yeah.
It's not for football people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this will somehow look back negatively on the Patriots. But that week in June of 2013 was former Celtic Ray Allen, who had just left for their biggest rival at the time, the Heat, hits that big Game 6 buzzer beater to send the game into overtime, keeps the Heat alive, and they win the title. The Bruins lost the Stanley Cup final at home, 2 goals in 17 seconds to Chicago. And Aaron Hernandez was arrested for murder. Not a great week in Boston sports lore. Only team I didn't mention there, the Red Sox, did go on to win the World Series that year, though. So, it's not all bad. But I'm talking about the Bruins right now, and I am talking about my pal, Phil the Thrill Kessel. Phil Kessel did not play in the NHL last year, but according to Elliot Friedman, Phil wants to play in the NHL this year. He thinks he's got something left in the tank. He's going to be 37 by the time the puck drops. About 2 weeks, he turns 37. And is there an opportunity for the Boston Bruins to have a reunion with Phil Kessel on a professional tryout? I say yes, and I am here for this. I am a nostalgic Bruins guy, but I think there's some of this that makes sense. I really do. I don't think there's any of it that doesn't make any sense. But that was confusing to say. So they've got some depth issues at the winger spots, and they're trying to figure out, which of these guys is going to actually slot in. It's probably going to be Fabian Lysell. He's gotten a couple shots the last 2 years. We haven't seen much, but he's still a fairly young guy. The problem is they don't have a lot in the ranks coming up right now. They don't have a lot in the farm system. So Fabian Lysell is probably that guy, but you're talking about a second-line winger just like that. And, how much do you get of Georgi Merkulov, who is, 24 at this point? So there's room, like there was last year, for a veteran PTO guy. They brought in James Van Riemsdyk. They brought in Danton Heinen on a PTO, and Danton Heinen gave you, 36 points? Had a pretty good year for what you were paying him last year and the flyer you took on him. Could that be the Bruins again this season? I laid out a couple of guys a few weeks ago. Blake Wheeler, Max Pacioretty, Kailer Yamamoto was one that they were interested in. I wasn't, so they didn't go with him. They did give a PTO to Tyler Johnson, who is small, shifty, made a good career for a guy at that height, couple Stanley Cups. But where does Phil Kessel fall into this? He wants to play in the league this year. He obviously, like I mentioned, he did not play in the NHL last year. He worked out with Abbotsford, the Abbotsford Canucks, Vancouver's AHL team. Some places have said he played there. Some have said he worked out. There's no record of him doing anything on the ice for Abbotsford. So I think he just worked out with them, hoping to, get picked up at the trade deadline or something. It didn't happen. But 2 years ago, when he played for Vegas at age 35, he played all 82 games. All 82. And all 82 the year before. So unlike a lot of these guys at 35, 36, 37, which is what Kessel is going to be, he's not missing time. He doesn't have major health issues. There's a production dip. Of course there is. The last year in 23, he played all 82 games and had 36 points. It was a -7 on a team that won the cup, by the way. I don't know if that's 4 Stanley Cups? 3 Stanley Cups? 3 Stanley Cups for Phil Kessel. And you've got a spot on your roster here, potentially, for a veteran winger. Why not this reunion? He obviously started his career with the Bruins, played his first 3 years there. He became kind of the first casualty of war of this new era of not letting these young guys blossom and trading them before they get to the market. That was a big Chiarelli thing. He did it with Kessel. He did it with Sagan. He did it with Dougie Hamilton. And that kind of became a thing for the Bruins. But Kessel was the first one. Picked 5th overall in 2006. He gets traded for Toronto's first-round pick in 2010, which does, weirdly enough, become Tyler Seguin at number 2 overall, and was fantastic. Looked like something of a power forward for the Bruins. I mean, not a fighter or anything, but could throw the body check around, big bodied guy who could score. Heck of a shot, great hands. First 3 years with the Bruins, he missed only like a handful of games. He gets up to 60 points in that age 21 season. Age 21 season after 1 year at the University of Minnesota. And they trade him right after that to Toronto to be Toronto's guy. And he signs a big deal there. In fact, his time with Toronto has become legendary, maybe infamous in ways. And Zach, I love to put these videos out there anytime I can. But when Randy Carlyle came in to coach the Leafs, he was kind of an old school guy. And he had this rule about what kind of drinks they could have in the locker room. And somehow Phil Kessel, actually, I'll get to this in a minute. Somehow Phil Kessel remained in tremendous shape, but he almost quit the NHL altogether when one of Randy Carlyle's rules was going to impede on Phil Kessel's lifestyle. I love this story.
Phil was like ready to quit playing hockey when he found out Randy was getting hired because Phil only drinks Coke. He doesn't drink water. And he heard Randy doesn't let Coke in the locker room, and he's like, I'll fucking quit. I swear to God. I'm like, dude, you just signed a $56 million deal or whatever. And he's just like, don't care. I'll fucking quit. I don't need this shit.
John Michael Lyles, his old teammate there on Spit and Chicklets a couple years ago. I fucking love that story. I don't care. I'll fucking quit. He signed like the biggest contract in the NHL at the time for the Leafs. And he's like the franchise guy. And what's amazing is you look at Phil Kessel, he's become so memed over the years, the acne, he looks fat and unbelievable. He loves hot dogs. He'll like eat hot dogs in the locker room. And somehow he was like the Iron Man of the NHL. He played like a couple hundred games in a row. He's played all 82. I think it's 5 or 6 times. Oh my gosh, it's more than that. It's a lot more than that. I'm just looking at it now. He played all 48 in the strike shortened season. It goes 82, 82, 48, 82, 82, 82, 82, 82, 82. Like he just kept playing every game, every year. And he doesn't drink water. He drinks Coke. He eats hot dogs. And unfortunately, early in his career, he also had cancer. So it's like amazing that he became the most durable guy in the NHL. And like, there's a lot of like, that's one of the most remarkable parts of his career. So he plays at Minnesota for a year, drafted again by the Bruins, 5th overall. And like immediately, like training camp, his rookie year, he gets testicular cancer. And it's like, oh my God, like what a blow to the Bruins. And to him, he's a kid, he's 19. And he ends up only missing 11 games. He plays 70 games that year, Zach, and wins the Masterton Trophy as the basically NHL's comeback player of the year. Made a bunch of all-star teams. He has, 30-goal guy a couple of times. Now has won 3 Stanley Cups. Like he has had a heck of a career, which brings me to the point that you really need to get him on an NHL team and hopefully the Bruins. He is at 992 career points. There's only like 10 NHL guys ever, American NHL players who have reached 1,000 points. Phil Kessel could do that where it all started in his NHL career and come back and play for the Bruins. And call me sentimental, call whatever bullshit you want in there. I love that. I would love that for him because we're not talking huge here. We're talking about like a depth forward, to play not even as much as James Van Riemsdyk did last year. We're talking about a depth forward who needs 8 points to get to 1,000. And at that point, it's tough to argue that he's not a Hall of Famer. He gets 1,000 points, has this Iron Man streak, 3 Stanley Cups. Even for a guy who never hit 40 goals, that might be enough. That might be enough. And it would be a really special opportunity to do it with the Bruins. And again, I'm just thinking like, I'm surprised he didn't play on an NHL roster last year at the Vet Min. Like, if nothing, he gives you dependability. He's out there all the time. He's played less than 60 games once in his career in a strike-shortened season. Once. Like that. Ugh. And he's finished top 50 in the Lady Bing voting 6 times. I didn't even know they counted up to 50 in the Lady Bing, but they do. He's a gentlemanly player, I'll tell you that. And had the most game-winning goals in the league in 2018-19, in case you're wondering, Zach. You saw how well I think it worked for the Bruins last year. James Van Riemsdyk did not light the world on fire, but he gave you a pretty decent half season. And that's all you can really ask for these guys. That's what I was talking about with the PTO a couple weeks ago. If you can get a good, decent half season out of those guys, that is a win. And you did it with Van Riemsdyk, who's got barely enough left in the tank. You did it with Shattenkirk, who was running your second power play in the postseason. And you did it with a younger guy, but another PTO guy in Danton Heinen. It all hit last year. And the Bruins have had some good luck with that, or good coaching with that, whatever it may be. I still think there's room for a veteran guy, and maybe it's just the black and gold spoked bee and deep inside me, but I think I'd rather have Phil Kessel than Tyler Johnson. I think he brings a little bit more in the physicality department. And could you imagine the memes of Phil Kessel coming back to the Bruins? And when I started watching, he was like the star player, or the young star. Obviously, he was traded when he was 21. He was fantastic to watch. He would skate right through guys. I remember in Game 6, that 2008 series against Montreal, he just went right through Frankie Bouillon, just right through him, just like toe drag, nutmeg, through the legs, goal. Like that. Scored 2 in that game. Scored 2 in the next year against Montreal when they knocked them out of the playoffs in a sweep at the Bell Center. The guy, he's been a playoff performer. He is a Bruin at heart. I couldn't get past when I saw 992 points. When you're that close to 1,000, man, this guy's got to play in the NHL. And I know there are guys out there getting PTOs that aren't as good as Phil Kessel. Van Riemsdyk just got his second. And no shade against Van Riemsdyk, but he didn't have the career that Phil Kessel had. And he's a great locker room guy. Always has been, despite the fact that he, doesn't drink water, only drinks Coke, and is threatening to quit. And despite the fact that he didn't always love Randy Carlyle's weigh-ins. This is a good one too. We have the video for this one too, right, Zach? Might as well. John Michael Lyles in that Spittin' Chicklets, he talks about the weigh-ins that Randy Carlyle made them do all the time. And as you can probably tell from the memes and the diet, Phil Kessel did not love those.
The weigh-ins, Phil refused to weigh in one time, and Bell's like, Phil, you got to weigh in, and Phil's like, fuck that, I'm not fucking weighing in. And Bell's, our strength coach, told Randy, and he's like, you tell him he's got to weigh in. Bell's came back, he's like, Randy says you got to weigh in.
Standoff.
Phil put his head down the hall and he goes, you tell that fat fuck if he wants me to weigh in, he can come weigh me in himself.
Oh my God, that's so good. That is so good. Phil Kessel, he's not going to get pushed around, man. He's not going to get pushed around. And you talk about a good veteran core on this team, and maybe not even necessarily the core of your team, but the vets that you've had in the room the last few years. Obviously, with Bergeron and Krejci, they move on, they retire, and then you have the Van Riemsdyk, the Shattenkirks. You had Foligno in there in 22-23. Pat Maroon last year at the end of the year. There's always been room, it seems, on the Bruins for a veteran guy who doesn't have what he used to have, but can still do a job for you in a limited role and can help you out in the locker room. And I look at this bottom 6 for the Bruins as well, and how many young guys are going to be playing in those bottom 6 forward spots, with Patra and Beecher and, Boquist, all these guys. Well, not Boquist, but all these guys. And I'm thinking, you put them on a line with Phil Kessel. How is that not going to help? How is that not going to help? It's better than rolling in someone like Jack Studnicka, the last few years. To me, that is more beneficial to help these guys out and get them up to speed, because you don't have a great farm system if you're the Bruins right now, but you've got some young players that are going to be foundational for this team 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Those guys I was just talking about, Patra, Beecher, Lowry on the blue line. They can always help with having a Phil Kessel playing alongside them. I know you've got Marchand, and he's the captain of this team, no doubt, and he's still got something left there. But if you're talking about, okay, I'm going to have a winger spot at some point in this year, do I try this Georgi Merkulov thing again? Or what if I platooned him with Phil Kessel? Because we don't know what we're getting out of Merkulov. He's not a huge prospect. He's 24. I can even use him as a trade chip. And in the meantime, I can use Phil Kessel, who at least is going to be out there on the ice. He knows how the game's played at this level, and he might still have something left. Again, 36 points 2 years ago. That's not nothing. And 52 the year before. Like, he could still play out there for you. I believe that. And you look at his splits, it's really like Phil Kessel helps out good teams. He doesn't necessarily elevate bad teams. He did help Toronto get to the playoffs in 13, but when he's a minor part on a good team, he is a huge help. Go ask Pittsburgh when he won 2 Stanley Cups there. And again, he was playing all 82 games, excuse me. One of those years he had like 90 points. In fact, in the 2 Stanley Cup years, he had a combined 129 points in the regular seasons. That's a guy who can help out a contender. I know that was a while ago, but you look at his career splits. He helped out Vegas in 2 years ago when they won the Cup. That was the 36-point year. In fact, the only team that he is not a career minus for, offensive player, the only team that he wasn't a career minus for was the Boston Bruins, and he was a +5. It's time to bring him home. It is time to bring him home. He needs to get to 1,000. Full circle, starts and ends with the Bruins, one of the great American scorers of all time if you look at the numbers. Phil Kessel, come back to Boston. Bruins, make this happen. It's not going to be a huge make or break part of your team. Bring in a guy who can play for you, can be dependable, can get out on the ice at his age, and can bring a ton of help in the locker room and also on those third and fourth lines with some of the young guys you have that are going to need to step up in the next 2 or 3 years. I think Phil Kessel can only help with that. Phil the Thrill and the TD Garden hot dogs, man, match made in heaven. Let's bring that back. What we are going to bring back is Pete Souza. He's going to be in the next segment. That's coming up next on the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.
we're back.
We are
We're so back on the
just
Cam
like
show.
BC football.
BC football, which I do need to say is still back. They had a setback on Saturday, but they are still back. They lost to Missouri,
But the number 6 team in the
now
nation.
number 6 in the nation. And what is most crazy about this, we talked about this off air.
Yeah.
That is Missouri's first of 2 games against Massachusetts college football teams this year. In like 3 weeks, they go to UMass. That's nuts. They're going to be a top 5 team in
playing
America.
at UMass, which
And they're
is
gonna be
kind of
playing
odd. Yeah.
At UMass. I don't even know if the coaches know how far away that is from Boston, man. It is like a farm in the middle of nowhere, Amherst. And it's one of the worst stadiums in all of college football. That is insane. They're going to still be undefeated. We went over this. They play like Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Texas A&M
Someone
I
else-
think might be
A&M,
the
but I
toughest
think it's
one,
at
and then there's
home.
a bye week I think before they go there.
And
Yeah.
at UMass.
then
But
they're at
BC
UMass.
is still back.
All right.
It's still back. They had a lead in that game. I'm still believing in BC. We have Pete.
We do have Pete here. Like I brought him in there right there. There he is.
Hey,
There's Pete. What's up,
Yeah.
Pete?
Cam, I was thinking about you last night. I sent you a couple messages.
Yeah, you did.
I sent you. Did
That's
you watch
funny.
the Ray Donovan trailer?
I did. Yeah.
All right.
So is his family already dead? Did they kill his family?
I'm not telling the story. He had. Well, I can
Well, I'm
say
not
this.
watching
His sister committed suicide,
it. Okay.
and that's a big part of the story.
Gotcha.
What did Jim McKay say before the Miracle on Ice when it aired live in the U.S.? Do you know what he said?
No, I actually don't. I
If
know
there's one
everything about
person that
Miracle on Ice.
doesn't know the ending of this game right now, I'm not going to spoil it for him because the game was tape delayed.
Yeah. Which is incredible to think about.
Think
They were still
amazing.
tape delaying the finals at that point, the NBA finals
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
that's nuts. 5:00 on a Friday, biggest sporting event in history.
There you go.
Like-
That's probably the best game ever played. I mean, like as far as the impact it had on America, and in sports television and our society. Yeah.
Have you ever been to Lake Placid?
No,
I haven't either.
what the hell is that? I think about that sometimes. Like, what was it like to have the Olympics in a city, or you could call it a town of Lake Placid? It would be like having the
village,
Olympics in Waco.
but smaller and less spread out. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like upstate New York is obviously not like New York City, but it's not as spread out as we are here in Central Texas.
Can we get the Olympics in Waco? Oh,
I said that with Braden. I think you can. I think you can. There's enough. Like you've got water. You can do your water sports. Rowing, it's actually great on the Brazos River.
It
So
is. It's true. Yeah.
I think you could.
If I may just add one thing to this.
No, I don't want you to ruin this.
Okay, fine. I'll back out.
No,
No,
go
I
ahead, Sam.
remember from just conversation years ago when they were talking about like, oh, if a place like Dallas could host the Olympics with the amount of like stadiums and stuff they have there. And the thought came up of like, well, then Waco could like host like, it's a 90-minute drive away for some of these countries to kind of
Oh,
like
wow.
practice facilities and stuff.
Sure.
So like the theory,
Or
that-
just like other events.
Yeah.
Like when they were talking about it in Boston, there was like spread out all over the state. In fact, there was one event, I don't remember what sport it was out by Amherst. So that's like 3 hours away.
Yeah.
So you could do that.
That would be
do something like that.
amazing. Because McLean Stadium is beautiful, and so is Foster Pavilion.
Yeah, and they don't need to be huge, right? So like
No.
the Herb Brooks Arena in Lake Placid, which is the one I want to go to, it's got like 5,000 people. in it.
5,000 people, and they were playing games in arenas where like almost like high school arenas, like where 2,000 people, like wall to wall.
Yeah. Miracle on Ice is cool.
Miracle on Ice is very.
I
very-
found out yesterday. I didn't find out, but it kind of hit me that my 2 favorite sports movies came out the same year because Miracle came out in 2004, and the other one is being shown in Waco this week for a 20th anniversary tomorrow at Cinemark, and I
Hold
really
on.
want to go.
20th anniversary. So this is 2004. Invincible.
No, you're not that far off years wise, but no, it's not.
not enough Tim
Invincible.
McGraw and Invincible.
Yeah,
What is it?
Friday Night Lights.
Oh gosh, of course. Yeah,
Did you know it was a book too?
we got to get our girl. What happened to Aubrey?
I never see her around here anymore. I think well, I guess it was only last week that she did that other
Yeah.
interview in here. But
Looks
yeah, I don't
good. The
see
show
it.
looks great.
She would love the go see the movie. I'm sure. I love watching old movies in theaters, man. I think that's so cool. They're also showing Blazing Saddles.
I went to see Purple Rain after Prince died. It was very cool. I'd never seen the movie.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
Prince is great. Not really my thing, but like I can understand he was like a fucking genius, man.
I mean, a genius. And you
Like
get
he
into
did everything on those albums. Everything.
oh, and then you get into like that whole scene in Minnesota. Like it doesn't for me like Jimmy Jam, Terry Jam, and then Morris Day and the Time. Like that shit was funky as hell. It was really good.
A lot of guys from Minnesota and Boston. That's what I think about the movie Miracle. It's from Miracle.
That's true, yeah.
I'm sure you like that movie.
Miracle was amazing.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it till
Because I know you're not a hockey guy, but
no, not necessarily.
you see Slapshot?
No.
Oh, okay. I think you'd really like that as well.
I need
Miracle's
to watch that.
great.
I mean, I've seen Youngblood's one of my favorite movies.
Oh,
Oh man, Youngblood is
the
amazing.
gameplay in that is fucking terrible.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Is it?
Come on. Yeah.
Peter Zezel's in it. I remember that. I think Rick Tocchet was in it. I know
Yeah, I think
Zezel
Talk
was
was in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in years.
Oh, you need to rewatch it. That had for a little kid, it had everything. It had
Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe. It had
That's it.
a naked, attractive woman.
Yep.
It kicks off basically with the sex scene with his. It's like a MILF thing where he beds the woman who owns the apartment complex. Yeah,
what a guy!
It's great.
What a winner, man! I love that.
It's a great and this like Swayze is in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Miracle better.
Well, yeah, of course.
I like that Miracle's really historically accurate too.
Yes.
Because so many of those movies will bend the rules a little bit.
Do
Miracle didn't need to. It was a good enough story.
Al Michaels says the Herb Brooks, they're down 2-1. You know the story, but some people don't. It's at the intermission against Finland. This is they win this game. It's a gold medal.
Yeah.
And he just said, if you lose this game, you'll take it to your fucking grave. And Al Michaels said it was the best pep talk ever.
It's unbelievable. Like that's better than the pre-Soviet speech.
What
the
was
Miracle
that?
speech. The whole dramatic one they do in the movie, like that's real. I can't do it word for word, but he's like, great moments are born from great opportunities. That's what you have here tonight, gentlemen. That's what you've earned here tonight. And I get the order mixed up, but he's like, if we played them 10 times, they might win 9, but not this game. Not tonight.
That is great.
Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. I'm sick and tired about hearing what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. And I think I mixed that up because he says, this is your time. Now go out there and take it.
That's pretty damn good.
It's pretty good. But that one's better. The Finland one's better. People forget they almost the way they did it, the medal stuff was so fucked up back then that if they had lost to Finland, they might not have gotten a medal at all.
Really?
And they were in the gold medal game. In fact, if they had lost to Finland, the Soviets would have won gold. Think about that. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. I checked up on it a few months ago. I don't remember why, but it was like, yes, if they had lost, it actually would have been the Soviets who would have won it on like points or something. And maybe they had a tiebreaker against Finland or some shit like that. It was weird because I think Finland won the bronze, even though they lost the gold medal.
Imagine that. I mean, really
bizarre.
That
McClanahan
it's so weird to think of like these moments, right? Like, so if they lost that game, then they don't get the gold. Maybe they don't get a medal at all. And then what happens to the country? Because here's why I say this. We were like kind of in despair at the time as a nation. People were like burning people were burning American flags. They show that in the movie, right?
Yeah. Just
Jimmy Carter, not necessarily.
He had a big hand in that.
A great president. So there was we were kind of a shitty country and we weren't feeling great about ourselves. I wouldn't say shitty country. We weren't feeling great about ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
Wow. And the Soviets were invading and
yeah.
that was tough, man. I remember it well.
What do you think about, like, I thought it was a real bummer, like we boycotted the Olympics in Russia.
Yeah, I never, because I know there was even some weird rumblings about that a few years ago. I never like buy into that. I think, especially when it comes to sports, dude, and we're so good at the Olympics, like the way to piss them off is to go and beat their ass,
Yeah.
like we typically do. So I know, and furthermore, I also hate taking away that opportunity from athletes. Like the Olympics is such an insane honor and something you literally have to work your whole life for.
Mhm.
And you only have a very slim window that you can actually go and actually win. Like the Katie Ledeckis, the Michael Phelps, all those people, those are the outliers. Most people who go to the Olympics go once or twice if you're really, really good. Think of how elite you have to be. And so to like take away that opportunity, I think is so shitty. Is so shitty to your athletes.
Yeah.
To prove some fucking political point that no one's going to remember.
Yeah, and it doesn't get a whole lot done.
No, it does
If
not.
history is any indication.
And that's what the Soviets said in 1980, by the way. In the Winter Olympics, they said, nope, we're going to go beat them on their home ice. They didn't. They didn't. A bunch of college kids from Minnesota and Boston, man. That is such like a point of pride for like where I'm from, because a bunch of them are from my area. Dave Silk was from Scituate, which is like 2 towns over.
Scituate.
Yeah, you know Scituate?
How far are you from Swampscott?
It's on the North Shore, so about an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm from the South Shore of
Okay.
Boston. And the hometown of Tony Canigliaro as well as Todd McShay and Dave Portnoy.
Yeah.
And so Dave Silk, do you know Scituate? Did we get through this?
I forget why I know Scituate.
It's a nice
but
town, man.
Yeah.
Nice
I know
town.
I know it from McShay.
A couple of NHLers
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
So double check, make sure there's no overlap. Dave Silk was on the first line from Scituate. Jim Craig, the goalie. I have the Jim Craig jerseys from Northeaston, which is a couple towns over. And
That's
I drove
awesome.
through it with my girlfriend, and I was like, "This is where Jim Craig is from." Like, I was so into it.
I've spooked
it's
a
like a
couple
huge,
girls
like,
with landmarks like that. Like, I'm just like, whoa.
With what like that?
Landmarks? You know,
okay,
like
okay.
it's like honestly driving by Texas Stadium. I never been there. It's demolished now, but like that's where it was in Irving. I'm just like,
Ever been to the Astrodome? That's still there.
I have not. I should go there.
It's grown over. Just go to a Texans game. It's right next door.
I went to the Superdome. This is like 10 years ago, and I almost lost my first time in there. I was like, I loved it. So much has happened in that building.
That is a lot. I've been to a couple games there.
Yeah.
It needs a redo. It really
It
needs
does.
a redo. Before we get out of here, because now we got onto this, what is like I don't want to say lamest landmark, but the one that you were like so excited about that on the whole isn't very exciting? Like one of
Well,
those sports things.
I mean, it's funny. You could say just about any landmark, like outside of sports. Like I get there and I'm like, so this is it? All right, let's
Like
go.
Plymouth Rock or
I
something.
mean, the Liberty Bell. I'm from Philadelphia. Like over the summer, we toured a bunch of stuff, going back with my girlfriend to Philly, and it's underwhelming for me.
Yeah.
I like, you can look right in there and be like, that's where they signed the Declaration of Independence. I'm like, all right. Like if you say, see right there, like that's where the Cowboys beat the Broncos in Super Bowl like 12. I'm like, let me. Like,
That was the first thought I had when I went to the Sugar Bowl in the Superdome was, this is where Vinatieri kicked the game winner against the Rams.
Yeah.
Like this is where the Brady thing was born. This is here's something really nerdy before we get out here. We're running short on time. I've got a friend who is from Houston and he kind of cosplays as a Celtics fan. Like he doesn't he didn't buy a championship t-shirt or anything, but he's so like old school white kid. He loves Larry Bird. And he's like country bumpkin. He loves Larry Bird. And so he loves like the 80s Celtic stuff. And we are going to do a trip. I'm hoping it's this winter because I'll be in Chicago of,
I love the way, by the way, you say Hunter. Yeah. Go ahead.
Anyway, Indiana trip is what it's going to be. And it would be French Lick, Larry Bird's hometown. Terre Haute.
I've
where
been to
Indiana
Terre Haute.
State is. You've been to Terre Haute?
Yeah,
you like
the
it?
Colts used to have training camp there.
You like it? Did you go to Colts training camp? Or
Yeah.
why?
Because when I was working with McShay, we would go to
Oh,
training
okay.
camps. I went there with Jim Nagy, the guy who's the executive director of the Senior Bowl. We went to all these different training camps.
So Terre Haute for an Indiana State game. And the other one, the big one for me, is Milan, Indiana. Have you ever heard of Milan, Indiana? It's spelled like Milan, but it's got that Midwest culture, Milan. They had a team, small school, that won the state championship in 1954. They had an enrollment of about 100. They beat a school with like 2,500 kids in it. It was Muncie Central was the team they beat.
Muncie, yeah,
and
sure.
they hit a jump shot as time expired. Bobby Plump hit the jump shot, and it was called the Milan Miracle. It was this huge upset. It was like the great American underdog story. You might have seen it portrayed loosely in the movie Hoosiers.
No
Hoosiers
way.
is based off this team, Milan, Indiana. It's a real story, and it's awesome. As anyone who is like from a small town and is into sports, like this is your wet dream. Like this is the ultimate high school sports story ever. Like Friday Night Lights, that's great. But this is an actual like team from nothing that goes and wins the state championship. There was no classifications in Indiana basketball. So there was one state champion, and they did it. By the way, they beat in the semifinals. They beat Crispus Attucks High School from Indianapolis. And you know who the star player was for Crispus Attucks? Oscar Robertson. It's incredible, Pete. So I want to go there, and I got to wrap this up. Knightsville, Indiana is where the Hoosiers gym is.
Yes,
And
I've
it's
heard.
still
I've
there,
never been there.
and you can rent it out and like play pickup. And I want to do that so bad. But they got this like little like barbershop museum in Milan for this team. It's still on the water tower, state champs, 1954.
That's pretty.
I've
That's
got a
pretty
sweatshirt
awesome.
for it that I bought from
That
them
gets you
a few years ago.
goosebumps.
Like that is like a bucket list thing for me.
Yeah,
So that would be the weirdest sports trip I'm going to do. Pete, I'm going to be on your show later, right?
absolutely.
Still got a spot for me?
Yeah.
1 o'clock here on the Rogue Media Sports Network YouTube, Rogue Media Network YouTube, Pete Souza Show. Pete Souza Show YouTube. YouTube, Pete Souza Show. I'm just like putting tags in there. 1 o'clock, Pete will be live, and I will be on with him in the final segment. You guys don't have to tune in until then. I'm just kidding. Listen to the whole Pete Show. We'll see you tomorrow. We're Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Central Time here on YouTube. It is the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. We'll see you.